Welcome back, guys. It is the Brothers Geek Out podcast. It's only going to be me, Kibla, on the mic today with a special guest, Luke English. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're
What a lovely
welcome.
privilege.
It's been a while. I know I wanted to get you on the show for a little while now, and it's timing. I know it's always crucial, and life is busy as well. But thank you for coming on. Just to let the listeners know, Luke, I'm going to let you take over the mic and do a little bit of an intro for yourself.
Thank you. So who am I? I'm Luke English. I'm a media lawyer. I've been in that world for about 22 years now. So I work in film, television, music, but I also work and represent lots of influencers as well. And yeah, that's where I work. That's what I enjoy doing. Recently set up my own law firm. That goes by the name English Media. So you'll find me on socials under that. And yeah, along with everything else, the reason I'm here is because I'm a geek along with the rest of us. So we're going to have some good fun.
Definitely. This is the one thing I've got to enjoy over the past year is inviting guests, and they're coming from different backgrounds of work life and cultures, but it all roots down to the geekiness that brings us all together, and I love that completely. You recently started off your new venture. How has that been in the process?
Yeah, so launched in October. Took the plunge. Obviously a bit of a crazy time because COVID was thick and thin of that in the UK. But despite everything, I have to say I've been very blessed and still doing well. Certain types of work that I deal with, so the music world was still thriving because people were still recording. Obviously no one could perform, but they were recording and working on tracks, which was great. And then probably in the last couple of months, when in the UK restrictions are starting to be eased off, then film and TV stuff are starting to pick up again, because again it's a bit easier to film and record and a little less restrictions. So the whole sort of media industry in the UK is slowly but surely starting to open up, and because of that, work has been booming, which has been a real blessing. But no, it's great fun. I've been working in the industry for some time, and it's nice to be able to be my own boss and to help out those people in the industry.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you when it comes to being your own boss. That's played a big part in my life as well recently. And I made some changes in the past 2 years as well. So moving on from what I was doing as a freelance artist to working, I do marketing now because of my social media role, and getting to consult with companies and work with different universities, colleges and schools. And I'm doing a bit of coaching as well. And it's nice to kind of manage your own time now, definitely. Yeah. And being a parent as well.
Exactly, that's a full-time job, don't we know it?
So it's getting that special time with the little one as well, and making sure that I can have enough time to have a healthy life-work balance.
Exactly, got it in mind. I most of my life I spent working and living in London, and then about 8 years ago I moved to a place called Christchurch, which is in Dorset, which is by the beach. So yeah, I could give my little one a bit more of a work-life balance, and obviously during the summer become quite popular with family and friends.
No, definitely. No, it's actually really good. And I mean, like even the move for you, like going from London to where you are now, what was that like reality shock wise for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it was a risk. It was a risk. I've been very blessed. I've worked for people like the BBC. I've worked for Walt Disney. I've worked for Sony Music. I've worked for West End theatre production companies. So, and all of these companies are all based in London. So it was a risk when I was asked by a law firm down here to come and relocate down by the south coast. But yeah, like you said, I've got a daughter, a bit like Kibla here, and so it was right. Well, I got to think about her now, and I got to think about, will she spend time with Daddy or not? And so the opportunity to come down here, for me, it was a no-brainer. And yeah, it's different style of life, but we enjoy it down here. But I mean, going back to you, and you're saying, well, I'm doing marketing. What's great, is what I enjoy doing is the creativity. You know, I'm a lawyer, and you know, I negotiate and work on contracts for clients. But what I love doing is meeting people that are creative, and their ideas and their thoughts, and then making a creative, you know, whatever they've got in their brains, and then making that into something, whether it's music or film or, yeah, it's great, brilliant.
No, that's right. I mean, I met you. I'm thinking probably we're going on like the 10 or 12 year mark. Through Archer, and
that's right.
I still have a good close working relationship with Archer. We are working on things together as well still, and coming up with a new project soon. But that's how I met Luke, and again, it was at one of his parties. It was a summer party I met you at. Definitely.
We like to host our family. We like to host. We enjoy having people over here, and yeah, you know, we just like to bring people together, and half of it is just having family and friends, and half of it is networking, and that's what it's about, and bringing different people together from different walks of life and different jobs, and then seeing, well, what happens next, kind of thing. And so and that's what I enjoy doing. If you can connect people and bless them, then do it.
No, of course. Your time that you did, like at your work, like you said, you worked with like Sony, Disney, and these big companies that produce like the mass amount of stuff that we get right now, and the content that we get right now. And I mean, what was it like for you in that time when you were working for these companies? Was you still a bit like, oh, I work for Sony, I work for Disney?
Well, as I said, I had the privilege of working what they call in-house. So I was one of the in-house lawyers for Disney, and it's a great opportunity and a great company to work with. Their headquarters is based in Hammersmith, my job was working in the television department and negotiating contracts with Eastern Europe, with Africa, with the Middle East, and with Canada. So those were my core territories to work with. So it's a great privilege to work with all the different broadcasters across all those different countries. And yeah, it's great company to work with. You know, they had horrible perks. I mean, you know, we had a 250 full HD, you know, 4K cinema in the basement, and every lunchtime on a Friday they'd have a new movie that you're allowed to watch during your lunch break. So, you know, it's a hard life. But, you know,
it must have been.
I had to live it, you know, and because of the position I was in, we got free tickets to any of the parks and discounts on the hotel,
that's hard.
Food and things. So, you know, taking trips to Disney World and Euro Disney, you know, but there you go.
It is. You're listening to this, guys. That's the hard life. It's the hard life. But you got there with, like, you know, when it came to doing the job that you do now. I mean, it was a lot of hard work that you put in, a lot of time in. You put in, like, how do you persevere through moments that you thought, you know what, am I on the right track to do it? Because now you're on your own path.
That's right.
But your journey to that was,
I mean, as I said, I've been very blessed, and you know, my first job, you know, having, you know, qualified, was working for the BBC. So that, I mean, that's a great place to start off with. And you know, again, it's a big brand, it's a big company, and I was dealing with copyright in their programs to make sure that they could broadcast it without someone saying, "Oi, you know, that's my music," or "Oi, that's my film," or "You haven't asked permission for me to do that," and that type of thing. So, and that's kind of, you know, where I started, and the world that I continue to work in. So, all my clients, one way or another, there's a form of copyright that they have that needs to be protected.
Yes,
you know,
of course.
You're in the marketing world. You've created something that's yours, and you want to use that, and you want to protect that to make sure someone doesn't copy it.
Exactly.
So yeah. So I when I was at, you know, I actually returned to Disney after I left them. Probably returned to them about 5-6 years later, and I walked past my old office. Obviously, you know, they replaced me, and that's all fine. And then about sort of 2 offices away from it, they've got this beautiful mural of all the Marvel characters. You know, it's kind of like sort of a front page of an Avengers kind of cover. And I was just like, oh, maybe I should go back to Disney, because I just want to look at this picture for hours on end, because it was huge wall.
Yeah, it must have been. Must have been amazing.
And you know, and they've grown from strength to strength. You know, they were big when I worked for them, and then obviously taking over Pixar and then taking over Marvel, and then expanding and expanding. So, but I mean, very clever. You know,
yes, very. Why not?
Okay, they spent billions on buying Marvel, but certainly made a few pennies back.
Of course, definitely. I mean, we're gonna touch into like the geeky side of what we originally came on this podcast to do. What got you interested in the world of like comic books and the superhero world?
So my first kind of major experience of comics was a little bit dark, I have to say, thinking about it. So I had a paper round when I was an early teenager, kind of, you know, 14, 15.
I did it as well.
Yeah, you know, you got to start somewhere. It's either Mackie D's or it's a paper round.
Yeah,
so,
that's it. Yeah.
So I did the paper round, and I remember, you know, going to the newsagents, picking up the papers for the day, and then, you know, although it was just an independent newsagents, they had a lot of comics there, and I saw this comic, and it was a front page of a comic character called the Punisher, which I'd never heard of before. And for you geeks out there, it was a A4 comic, and it's the UK version of the Punisher.
That's right.
So there's a US one and there's a UK one, and it was the #1 copy. So it was the first original copy, and it had a little Punisher pin badge that you bought when you bought the comic. It came with it, and I'm like, oh, this looks quite cool. You know, being 14, never come across. You know, I've heard of Superman and Batman. I've heard of, you know, the classics, but I'm like, who's this?
Punisher.
So I picked that up, and along with Punisher stories, it also had. And again, this just proves how old it was. It had cartoon strips of RoboCop, because RoboCop, I mean, it had been and gone, but it was still a thing.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like the sub character inside some with the Punisher storyline. So I'm like, oh, okay, I like this. So from then onwards, sort of, I would continue to collect the UK versions, and then got into a bit more and realised that there was a whole world of US versions. Obviously, the traditional sized comic size rather than the A4 comic size.
That's right.
And then from that, I was like, well, okay, you know, I'm collecting the Punisher. I'm collecting the Punisher Warzone, which was then a sort of another sub off of that. And then I thought, well, I wonder what other stuff's out there. And then I discovered there was lots of kind of team ups. And there's for example, there's a classic and team up where you've got the Punisher, Wolverine, and Ghost Rider up against Mephisto, which is kind of like the devil's son or something. So I'm like, you can't get any more geeky than that, you know. So yeah, I sort of searched out to try and find if there's any more of those out there. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started, and yeah, built up a massive collection, primarily Punisher, but some of the sort of subs as you know, the little collections of the other guys that come alongside. I mean, we're, you know, right now, and I'm sure we'll get to it later, there's the What If series on Disney Plus, and there's, again, going back some, there's a What If the Punisher kills Daredevil. So they're always kind of at each other, and then there's this whole storyline in a one-off comic that says, if you kill Daredevil, what would happen? And in the end, you know, I'm afraid, slight spoiler alert, so to turn off for 5 seconds. In the end, the Punisher has to go off and kill practically every superhero going, because they all get annoyed with him that he'd killed Daredevil.
That's right, yeah.
And there's lots of ways and means that the Punisher has to kill everyone. So yeah, again, I collected some of the what ifs way back when, and it's great to see them, you know, put into fruition now on the big screen, and on Disney Plus.
Well, no, of course, definitely. It's I know we'll talk more about it, because it was a really good episode as well. And for me personally as well, just to see the What If become an animation series, it's like, oh my god, I'm still here. This is great content.
It's awesome, isn't it?
So it really got me.
To actually see it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's still mind-boggling, because I watched it yesterday on the train journey to Birmingham, and I was like, literally, actually, I was in tears.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, how did this do? But we'll jump on that. But with the Punisher, is Punisher the all-time favorite?
I'm afraid so. Like I said, I'm afraid sort of there was this weird sort of dark love affair with him from the very beginning. I think for me, because actually he wasn't a superhero, because he was an anti-hero, and he had a conscience, and his main priority was to basically kill drug dealers and nasty people.
That's right.
So I love that element to him. It's not to say I dislike your Iron Mans or any of the other characters, but for me, I was like, actually, I know it's not real, but for me, it was slightly realistic, and he used real guns rather than space guns or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm
that's
like,
right.
and the characters just felt real, and for me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in it.
No, I mean, because like my brother, who lives in Singapore, his all-time favorite is the Punisher as well. He just has this mad. Actually, him and my uncle. My uncle loved the Punisher, and then my brother probably took that on as well. And he was like, because his willpower to continue and to keep going, even after a big beatdown, he still has that, determination to keep moving forward. And my brother's taking that onto his fighting career, doing MMA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was like, every time I read a Punisher comic, even if it's against the Marvel universe, he still ends up doing it. His like, determination is just out of this world.
Bring it on.
Okay, so
only limited by his weapons.
That's right, exactly that. And Frank Castle, I mean, he has in the recent comic books, Marvel Comics have touched on the mental health issue side of it and PTSD, and it's amazing what you could do with a character coming like that, because I know originally his path was coming back from the Vietnam War and going from there and suffering from there, and then the issues that happened later on, and they've adapted the story very well to on screen. There's been a couple, but who is your favorite on-screen Punisher? Is it Tom Zane, Dolph Lundgren, Steven? Is it Steven?
Stevenson.
Yeah, that's right, Stevenson, and then John Bernthal.
It's a hard one. I tell you what, I'm going to be really left field. And Thomas Jane did a off the record mini short called Dirty Laundry, starring Ron Perlman. And that for me was just the epitome of what the Punisher should have been. We won't talk about the Dolph Lundgren one.
No.
The other two feature films, weren't bad. They had potential, but the short Dirty Laundry, obviously, it was an unofficial version, but that was just perfect. That was exactly what it should have been from day one. And the TV series, obviously, I was really pleased that they'd made one. And on a personal level, I loved his introduction in Daredevil season 2. That worked really, really well, and and that was a nice surprise, I think, for everyone that was watching the Daredevil series. And then, I on a personal level, when they introduced Microchip, I think it was in season 2 of Punisher. He wasn't quite what he should have been. Again,
that's right. I can agree with that.
Going back to sort of the origins of the comics, he wasn't quite what he should have been, and they slightly adapted it too much for me to say, I really love the character and I really enjoy what they're doing. So, I appreciate you've got to have poetic license.
That's right.
And again, although the protagonist, the evil baddie in 1 and 2, and the creation of Jigsaw were good, but it just didn't quite hit the mark for me. I was like, no, come on, you could have done it slightly better.
That's why I kind of enjoyed Ray Stevenson's version of the War Journal.
Yes.
And how they did that. And I think it was Dominic Russell who played Jigsaw in that.
Yes.
I still enjoy that movie. I still put that one on because it does have some really good comic book scenes.
That's right.
Of the Punisher. And Ray Stevenson, he had that big build. Yeah. He was like that really big Punisher look. Which was
as you said, there were some good classic scenes, kind of, where again he's getting rid of the drug dealers and the lights go out. That's for me. That's the Punisher. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And the the end again, no spoilers, but the end scene, where he's got decisions to make.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's kind of, well, that's what I expect. That's what came from the comics,
That's right.
I think it's got a lot of potential and there's a lot more to come. I think they just need to go back to the original source a bit more, because there's some great storylines in the original source. And I think they all learned now that when you look at sort of the major Marvel Universe films, when they've gone back to the original source, they've actually been more successful than, well, I've got a character, I haven't looked at any of the source, I'm just going to slightly tweak it and see what happens.
And
yeah,
very true, very true.
Better.
It does. And it's like you've got 100 years of mythology there almost. I mean, Punisher's been around since, is it the late 60s?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's the late 60s, from my knowledge. Late 60s, early 70s, he kicked off. And
I think it's probably been sort of, a sub sort of baddie character that comes in and out. And I don't think he got Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Probably.
Yeah, so it was the late 60s. So it was Spider-Man who was introduced in that. And then, they've got that mythology there. They just need to use it. And as you said, they've done it with several other Marvel entities. It's just to use that as a basis to continue. I mean, the reason why Batman still works, even though we've seen the story 1,000 times, even tweaking it a little bit, they still use the mythology, which we love, and the characters that we still love as well.
You go back to the source.
Yeah.
And you'll get, and the thing is that the bottom line is if you go back to the source, you're then pleasing the comic book fans, and then you'll get a much better response.
That's right.
The reviews will be better. The more people will want to watch it because they'll go, "Oh, mate, this is classic. This is where it should be." But yeah, I mean, sorry, it's slightly digressing, but going back to it, you're right. I mean, I recall one of the comics in which the Punisher had a bad episode being left stranded in the ocean, and again, this is, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago comic, but it was, again, there was a whole build up of, hold on, this actually has a mental effect on people, and it wasn't just, well, I'm rock hard and nothing phases me. There was a whole, storyline about if he then went anywhere near the water, he was feeling fearful, and how does he overcome that?
Right.
Kind of
That's
thing.
right.
So even 20 years ago, they were thinking, actually, let's make this guy even more human than he is.
That's right. That's right.
Good.
That's right. No, it was really good. Really good. Really good. If there's any other characters in any of the universes or whatever, who would it be?
Oh, that's a really difficult question. I think kind of going back to the current Marvel universe. I think just because of his goofiness, I like Star-Lord. Because again, let's be frank, obviously there's the whole debate, is he special, is he not special? But in essence, it's just a guy, who's got a big ego, a couple of guns, and fortunately he's got some friends that are a little bit stronger than him, a little bit wiser than him.
That's right.
But yeah, again, it's, I suppose, if you really analysed it, it's about family, isn't it? It's like, well, you've got family behind you that will help you and support you in whatever you're doing. And yeah, so I like him. He's a fun character.
Very fun. Very fun.
I think what's been great about the Guardians of the Galaxy is that it's light-hearted. There's some good storylines in it, but it's light-hearted, and we enjoy those laughs and the comedic moments.
That's right. That's right. Definitely. It's pretty cool, because what James Gunn did was use characters that, again, not many people knew of. He knows how to use misfits in his films. I mean, with his recent film, he just knows how to use misfits and play them off really well. And that's always good and nice, because he loves the source material as well. Even when I was reading Guardians of the Galaxy and they said that they were going to do a movie, it was actually in between a story of the Infinity Saga, and they were Guardians of the Galaxy, and they were all random characters. They even had a Captain America who was a Native American who was Captain America 287.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it was more based like really into the future. But then he pulled out characters from the story.
And I mean, although I haven't collected any of it, I'm conscious that actually the Guardians of the Galaxy that we see on the telly aren't the original Guardians of the Galaxy, because there was, there's the origin story is they were miles away, and I think Odin was part of the original crew off the top of my head, So yeah, again, there's go back to the source material. There's loads to play with if they wanted to.
Exactly that. So, I mean, we'll jump into what if, because I think it goes with what we're talking about as well. I mean, how have you found the first 2 episodes?
Oh, I mean, it's just superb. I can't fault it. Both, again, forgive everyone for listening. There's going to be some spoilers. Spoilers alert. But first episode was superb. My wife and I both love the Carter TV series anyway, so we followed those, we enjoyed those, and then obviously to sort of throw into the mix what would happen if she became Captain America, and obviously both of us coming from the UK, there's this lovely geeky moment where the Shield, instead of having sort of the SEBI sort of white, and blue of the American flag, has got kind of the red, white, and blue of the British flag. So obviously there's a little bit of cheering going on in our house when that happened. But the storyline was great. Obviously there's sort of hints from the original and then little twists. Thoroughly enjoyed episode 1. And then brace yourself, everybody. Episode 2. Oh, wow. I watched that last night, and you would have to have not been on social media to know that was sadly Chadwick Boseman's last acting role, and wow, just wow.
It was a great episode, wasn't it? Like it had a lot of heart, and it had I just felt like what he represented in the time he was here in that one cartoon, because what they threw in the mix, and guys, again, spoilers, and it's too late if you haven't seen it. Where have you been? What they did with the with the story, what they did about him bringing a bit of harmony to all the worlds, and what he did with the character flip with Thanos, absolutely destroyed me. I was like, this is brilliant,
mind blowing.
It was so good.
As you said, you just got the impression that I mean, whoever the writer was, kudos to you. You'd thrown into the heart of who he was into that one episode, and epitomized him. It really did.
It did.
It was great to see the Guardians of the Galaxy with some extra friends, let's say.
That's right.
And slight change on who the main baddie was going to be. It was beautiful. Obviously deeply sad, but as a send-off episode, you couldn't wish for more.
Brilliant.
I'm loving both of them. I think they've done really well with it, and I'm anxious about the zombie one coming up. I don't know how that one's going to land, but the first two have been superb, and again they've just worked it perfectly. They
have. They've got some good writers on there. I mean, even the first one got me emotional towards the end when you do the character role reverse. And when he was like, when she was like, "Oh, I had a date" at the end, and I was like, "Oh man, why you guys like?" I know, I'm getting soft in my old age. I was like, "Oh, my wife."
I find Parenthood does that, but here we go.
But it was like it got me, and then I think the same thing. I was on the train yesterday when I was watching it, and I was giggling through it all. I mean, I had my face mask on, but if you'd see my eyes squinting because I was smiling so much. They made him so charismatic, and everybody around him worked really well as well. I'm trying to remember the actor's name at the beginning, who, when they started having a fight, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you." They changed his role as well. He was much more comedic than he was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yes. Digimon Houston.
That's it. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Brilliant.
That's right. Yeah, and you're expecting it there to be the massive fight, and it's like, oh no, I respect you. I know who you are. It's like, whoa, I didn't expect this to happen. That's brilliant. I love it. Nice twist.
Really good animation for me. I loved every bit of how it looked, how it feels. And guys, if you guys got a 4K TV, you're gonna love the visuals on this. It's absolutely stunning. And for me, as an artist, reading the comic books and drawing myself to seeing them, like I've been waiting for Disney to do Marvel animation for a long time, and this is like the perfect. It looks so good, like with Peggy and Steve in the original, the first episode. That retro style of art, I absolutely love it. It looks so clean and like really good. I found out recently. I think I saw it. The director, he wanted a little appearance from the Rocketeer, which would have been amazing. And I know that the original director of the first Avenger was the director for Rocketeer. So I was like, oh my God, that sort of mix up, you're gonna make my heart won't take it no more.
I agree. I mean, I'm fortunate. I've got a 4K television, and watching episode 2 in that, the detail and the texture and the animation in episode 2, then they've got it perfectly.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I definitely recommend anybody to watch episode 1 and episode 2, and very much looking forward to 3 next week.
I'm a bit interested to see what they do with Spider-Man in this one, and zombies, and what they're going to do. And plus, he's got Doctor Strange's cape. Like, what's happened? I mean, as we know, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has expanded dramatically since the TV shows have come out. Which one have you found your favorite at the moment?
Of the TV shows?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a difficult one. I think, I'm afraid it's cliche, but I think Daredevil season 2, as I said, when they introduced the Punisher for the first time, I like that storyline. I like how they linked it all together. I think again, in my wish list, when they did the Defenders to bring Daredevil and Iron Fist and Luke Cage all together, I'd loved it if Punisher had a cameo role in that somewhere down the line. And sort of, just popped up to help to kill off a few baddies and then disappeared again. He's not much of a team player, really.
No, he's not.
It would have been a nice little nod. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't know the detail. One presumes that the rights to those TV series will eventually be passed over to Disney. And it could be interesting to see which of those series get picked up and don't get picked up. I appreciate at the moment they're really concentrating on, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and obviously we've had Loki, and we've had Winter Soldier, and what was the first one?
WandaVision.
WandaVision. That was right. WandaVision.
That's right. Yeah.
No. So I can't see them rushing to do a sort of a Punisher season 3 anytime soon, because it doesn't quite kind of link up with all the grandiose of the bigger movies that's happening. But yeah, we, us geeky fans can just hope and pray that these things happen.
I mean, with that as well, saying that, because I know like the fandom has changed dramatically now, where I'm kind of like aged fine wine right now, and really, for me, it's a treat. For me, I'm really, I don't know, I really appreciate what I'm getting now, because 20 years ago when I was reading this in a book, I would have never imagined to see it on the big screen. Like when I first saw the first Iron Man, Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, I was blown. My mind couldn't take it, and I was like, come to a point now where I'm really appreciative about some of the stuff that I get. But we live in a different reality now. We are spoiled with the amount of content that we get as well. But the toxic fans that have come out of some of it, like, I mean, what are your thoughts on toxic fans? Because I know it's weird. It's gone from like how it used to be in sports to now into the Star Wars and and the DC and Marvel universe.
Yes, are you a DC fan or a Marvel fan? I won't talk to you. You're a DC fan, or other way around, as you say. And or if you're not a fan of Iron Man, then I'm not going to talk to you. I don't care if you like Spider-Man or not.
Yeah.
And as you say, it's whatever age you are, you have your favorites, you love them. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you're DC or Marvel, let's be frank, the theme for all of them actually is love and unity. I know it sounds a bit cliche, but it is. You boil it all down. So come on, guys, let's have a bit of banter and a bit of fun, but let's not be calling each other out and being aggressive or violent or whatever. It's just daft.
No, of course.
Let's enjoy it for what it is. And as you say, I never saw them, but there were let's say slightly budget Avengers movies, and I mean I'm old enough that I do vaguely remember the Hulk TV series. Because my parents, this is how embarrassing, but it's true. My parents said I used to sort of hide behind the sofa when he changed from the mild manner Bruce Banner to the Hulk, because I'm just like, whoa, I love this character, but he's also scaring the hell out of me.
My dad said the same thing.
So I remember that. I don't remember the others or the sort of the B movies that came out from it.
They were.
So, and I know it's no news to anybody, but when they cast Robert Downey Jr. to Iron Man, you just thought there can't be anyone else that's going to work this, because at the time his character in real life was matching the character of Tony Stark in the real world. It's like, wow, this is going to do really well. So
it did. I mean, how did you I think for me personally, I mean, it's a great transition to what he's done and what he's doing now, because I know he's working on various projects as well. But when it came to watching Endgame, what was it like for you when you saw that movie?
Well, I mean, I think for all of us, there was this build-up, wasn't there? I mean, from Iron Man onwards of, hold on a moment, there's just, no, it's not just Iron Man, then there's Iron Man 2, and then there's Captain America, and then all of a sudden, they're building up. Hold on a moment, they're going to bring them together in one Avengers movie? Oh, this is mind-blowing. Well, hold on a moment, then we're not just going to get that, we're going to get sort of a trilogy or, a whole rafter of Avenger movies, and it's all part of an overall storyline, and they're going to bring it on. You just think, wow, these writers are amazing. How do they come up with this? And then to watch Endgame, sort of accumulation of so many years of all these movies all rolled into one final battle and final scene, which obviously is a heartbreaking scene. Trying not to say too many spoilers.
It's been almost, how many years it's been, guys?
But yeah, absolutely amazing. And then obviously off the back of that, they're like, right, okay, that's over, and let's now concentrate on what's happening now. And so in one division, obviously they touched on that very early on, right? Well, hold on a moment, everyone disappeared, and then all of a sudden they're all back.
That's right.
And then what happens? And actually there was the human element to that. People moved on, people remarried, people had kids, people, whatever. And then I've just come back into my family unit, and hold on a moment, wife's remarried, my daughter's grown up, she's not, she's not 10 anymore, she's, whatever, 17, 18. Wow, mind blowing.
It is. That is actually a very cool concept.
Yeah. And then, and they're continuing, all the TV series since then have been continuing this sort of the theme of how would that work? And some people are really happy to be reunited, and they didn't get remarried, and they're happy to be reunited with their husband and wife that got taken away. And then some are like, whoa, hold on a moment, and repatriation, and that's right. What the Winter Soldier was all about.
That's right.
What would happen, and sadly there's a reality in real life of repatriation. It's immigration. Right. What would happen? And all of a sudden, whatever, I've forgotten the exact number, but 7 billion people all of a sudden come back into the earth.
That's right. Yeah.
And so there's real sort of human themes that go along, obviously the fun fantasy that we enjoy.
No, of course, and they've always got that in the silver lining that reality does clash with fantasy. So which is amazing that they can do that. And where they're heading now and what we're in for in the next couple of months, it's gonna be. It's gonna be.
I mean, even I saw you mentioned it earlier in your latest podcast, talking about the Eternals. So the Eternals trailer, for all those who don't know, has just dropped the final trailer. And even in that trailer, there's a point question, guys, where were you? You've been sitting on this earth for billions of years, whatever. What happened with that? Why didn't you intervene with Thanos? Why didn't you intervene when the 7 billion people reappeared?
Exactly.
What have you been doing? And that's great. And there's a brilliant link already, just like slam right in there. And then obviously we'll discover when we go and see it, kind of what the background of that is.
What the background is that. I love the fact that they got Camden Town in there, in that scene. That actually really, I was like, yes, they've got a bit in here. But I know they've been shooting a lot of the movies here in the UK as well.
We're very fortunate in the UK. We have a big film studio called Pinewood, which is sort of most famous for the James Bond movies. But I know that Disney and Marvel have taken over most of the studios there to really focus on the feature films and the TV series. So a lot of it being filmed here, which is a great privilege to be part of.
Always, it is, definitely. It always gets me excited. I
mean, even in lowly Dorset down here, we had they're filming, or they did start filming parts of the new Boba Fett TV series.
Oh, nice.
Which got me extremely excited, because we could be on this podcast for hours, but if we're talking about Star Wars, I'm afraid I'm a Boba Fett fan, and boy does it annoy my daughter. If you want me to geek out, I can't wait for December.
No, definitely, same here. I mean, it's weird because like The Mandalorian, for me personally, reignited my love for Star Wars again. I know that things move on and things happen and projects happen in between, and we're human at the end of the day. There's things we're going to like and things we're not going to like. I still love the movies. I still watch them, but I'll always be a fan of what I originally grew up with. And The Mandalorian gave me that feel, and if they can do that with Boba Fett, then I'm gonna be just.
Yeah, I mean, he's my favorite character in Star Wars, full stop. And then obviously when they launched The Mandalorian, I appreciate it's not the same, but similar world. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
Again, they launched Disney Plus primarily off the back of that TV series.
That's amazing.
And again, I personally, I loved season 1, really enjoyed it. And then came season 2, and season 2 knocked season 1 out of the park, which I think is always very rare. You often get a dud season 2.
That's right.
And then do the teaser to say, oh, Bubba's coming in December. And I'm just like, oh, wow. I mean, the end of season 2 was awesome enough as it was. And then they do a little sort of 30-second teaser. And I'd be intrigued to see how they lay it out, because Mandalorian, I've got a 9-year-old daughter. I've let her watch most of it because it's sort of fairly PG, if died. But if you're going to do Bubba, and you can do it properly, because maybe I slightly lied to you, Kibler, because I do have a lot of Boba Fett comics at home, and so if you're going to do Bubba, you got to be a little bit more violent, I'm afraid, and a little bit more gory. So it'll be interesting to see where they play it. That's
right, definitely. I mean, even with. As you said, in The Mandalorian, they did a lot of things and it made it, child friendly as soon as possible. And even the last scene, I was thinking, could you imagine he did that with any other like Star Troopers? But they couldn't have done that. That's why they used robots.
Yeah, they use robots, exactly.
That's using robots.
And then it's less violent because you're just destroying robots and you don't feel emotionally connected to it. And there's no blood and guts. But again, that's the magic of Disney trying to make sure that it's created a bigger audience as it possibly could.
Because it's weird, because now that Disney own, so I know that when they got 20th Century Fox, and they've recently started Predator and Aliens in the comic books, and they're starting to merge in with the Avengers and the X-Men. I wonder what they do when they start filming, when they start making the movie. Like, how would that work?
It's interesting. I mean, I saw a funny tweet on Twitter. Someone said, "What's your favorite Disney movie?" And then a friend of mine who's a horror director replied and said Pulp Fiction. And everyone was like, what? And what they didn't realize, because I knew this because I worked at Disney at the time, Disney owned Miramax. And Miramax was basically Quentin Tarantino's.
That's right.
I mean, it wasn't his studio, but let's pretend it was, because everything he ever created was through Miramax.
Through Miramax, yeah.
And so, from Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, all those, we were selling and distributing all those products when I was at Disney. And so it was obviously a funny little tweet. But actually, there has been a time when Disney did do 18s, they did do blood and guts, they did do violence, but it was a separate studio. And so it was under Miramax, it wasn't under Disney.
Under Disney,
so as you say, how do you,
because they'll still do it under 20th Century Fox umbrella, wouldn't they?
Yeah, one imagine so. And if you've got Disney Plus, you've got Disney Plus, and then they've got Star, which is the slightly more adult 12 plus rating, films and series.
That's right.
And I noticed actually, because I'm privileged to be able to have Disney Plus, that Aliens is now available on it.
I saw it the other day.
Yeah.
I saw it the other day.
For me, I'm looking forward to seeing. I want to better see all of them all in one block. But again, because of the world I work in, and I know you've got film rights, and certain studios own it for a certain period of time. And for example, Amazon could have Alien 3 until 2022, and
that's right.
Netflix could have the other one until 2025 or something. So you've got to wait for all those to finish, all those licenses to finish, then you can have the whole lot. So I'll wait patiently.
So I've seen like they've been updating their library on that sort of basis, because different studios own different things, and it's weird how like learning more about that as I've got into this industry a little bit more. It's like, wow, I didn't know that there was all this nitty gritty stuff in the background, because I think originally when like Marvel sold stuff to different studios, and it was like trying to get these characters back, and I saw this chart and I was like, oh man, why isn't there X-Men with Disney yet? Hurry up, man.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, before there was this sort of push and need for streaming, again, back in the day when I worked for Disney, you created your product and then you sold it everywhere, because that's how you made the most money, That's right. But now everyone's into the streaming, and obviously Disney Plus was launched. So what they're doing, just as Warner Brothers are doing exactly the same, is slowly but surely, as those licenses with other studios, other broadcasters end, they're then adding that content to their own streaming services, and obviously keep on advertising. Well, now you can watch this exclusively with us. And that's how television has changed over the last 10, 20 years.
Yes, definitely has. I still, because I'm a big cinema goer, I know you are as well. And I know that the streaming service has affected it a little bit, but due to COVID situations as well, has caused its own issues as well. But it's what's your thoughts on that side of things?
It's very interesting. Trolls 2 was launched exclusively, on a streaming service / pay-per-view, and don't quote me on this, but I think it was something like £20 to watch That's it. Right. And instead of the traditional, you could download it and watch it, 3 or 4 days, it was 24 hours, 20 quid. And there was no theatrical release, because in the UK and most of the world, there was no cinemas,
That's right.
Out. And that caused a massive argument with a lot of the big cinema chains, because they're like, look, this is a massive title. Why couldn't you postponed it until we're at a better position to be able to launch it? But it did well. And again, rightly or wrongly, it was the height of COVID. And if you've got kids and they're screaming and you've got nothing to watch, you're like, oh, I'll pay that 20 quid just so they can sit down for an hour and a half and watch something, please.
That's right.
So that was kind of, for me, at least, that's, from my knowledge, that was kind of the launch of it. And then all of a sudden, the other studios went, hold on a moment, this isn't a bad idea. If we've got product that we don't think is really going to shift that well in the theatre, why don't we do it exclusively? And there was kind of the in Disney, well, what are you going to do? When's Black Widow going to come out, and is it going to be exclusive to the streaming service, or is it going to be launch day and date with theatre, and how does that work? And that, you know, again, if you read in the news, that was the controversy, because
that's right.
It came out on Disney Plus, but as a premium, so you had to pay for the service. And again, it was only a 24-hour or 2-day. I think it was 24-hour viewing
purchase. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then, you know, Scarlett Johansson rightly said, "Hold on a moment, you have indirectly reduced my fees here." Because for those that are listening, as I said, I draft and negotiate film contracts, and if you're a lead actress, as she is, she will have a deal to say a percentage of the box office and the profits of that film will go towards her. And, you know, again, I don't know the exact detail, but supposedly, according to social media, I've lost out on £50 million of what would be the, you know, and that's just a margin of the profit you would make if this had gone to theatre first.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was her argument. And I have to say, you know, as a lawyer, from, you know, if I was representing her, I would agree with her.
Yeah, no, of course.
And you know, what we don't know is the small print as to whether, you know, there was agreed that it was going to be exclusive on Premiere, or whether actually it was agreed that it would be theatrical first, or a mixture of the two. And that's the controversy. And so, you know, and that's hard, because if I'm an actor or I'm a director or I've got a share in that film, and it's only limited to Premiere on a particular streaming service, you know, again, through HBO, they did Justice League, for example. How does that work? Because I'm actually going to lose money on this.
That's right.
So how are you going to make that up to me? And yeah, it's hard. I mean, in the UK, we're very fortunate, and cinemas are now open.
That's right.
And you can watch Black Widow in the cinemas, and there was a cinema release, but you know, instead of way back in the day, would have what's called windows. So it would be a cinema release for a certain period of time.
That's right.
Then after the cinema release, it would be a pay-per-view viewing on a premium broadcaster. For example, in the UK, it would be with Sky.
That's right.
And then after that, you would then have, you know, a longer window. Then you then get it to the general broadcasters. But obviously things have drastically changed now. And yeah, you know, you just go premium plus straight to the pay-per-view rather than even having the theatrical release.
That's right.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that all pans out. I haven't checked to see whether they've agreed a settlement or what's going to happen on that.
I haven't heard anything either yet.
But I entirely understand, and supposedly I've forgotten what her surname is, but Emma, actress Emma, who played Cruella in the Cruella movie.
Emma Stone, yeah.
Emma Stone. Apparently, she followed suit with Scarlett Johansson and has complained to Disney for her part, because again, Cruella went exclusively on Premiere.
That's right.
And although I had also read recently that she's now agreed to do Cruella 2. So perhaps they sat down the table and had a discussion, and some money was passed hands. We never know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but I get it. It's hard, you know, as a consumer. Great for us, brilliant. You know, we don't have to leave our sofas to watch it.
That's right. That's right.
And when, you know, on a personal level, when I first heard Trolls 2, 20 quid, I was like, oh, that's a lot of money, you know. And then when someone went, hold on a moment, I'm making figures up here, but like £12 for a cinema ticket, and then there's two of you, that's then £24, and then you then get popcorn, and then you get a milkshake, and then and it could be like 40 quid by the time you've left the cinema. And
that's right.
Actually, 20 quid's a bargain. Let's do it. So,
no, it's true. It's true.
I can have my whole family here, and I can watch it for 20 quid. But what you miss out on, which I do enjoy, is obviously the experience, the cinema experience.
Of course, yeah, that's right. That's right, definitely.
I know you and I were, you know, you saw it slightly earlier than I did, but you and I were fortunate to see the new Suicide Squad. Both of us saw it in the cinema, and yes, it's great to be back. It's great to be seeing it in the big screen with fantastic sound.
That's right. That's right.
And that movie was mind-blowing enough as it was, and you needed to watch that in the cinema.
No, definitely. It was good fun, and to be honest, every time I've got the chance, and most of the cinemas, they're doing great at the moment when it comes to COVID restrictions and keeping everybody separated and everything, and making you feel comfortable as well. Because
that's the key, isn't it?
I'm gonna take this risk to go out to watch a film, and I don't want to catch COVID.
Yeah.
They've got sanitation stations everywhere. Social distance is working really well. But even watching the UK premiere of The Suicide Squad and what they did there in the IMAX cinema, I was like, right, you guys they're doing their work to keep people safe.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a great job, and I really enjoyed it, and the atmosphere was great. Just I'm glad they're opened and that I can go enjoy things. So I've got actually a few on my list before I head off to Birmingham this weekend. I've got Free Guy, Ryan Reynolds one, and I think a couple of weeks we got Shang-Chi for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
The last trailer dropped for that recently as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Definitely looking forward to that.
And that, at a personal level, I think that's quite left field, of a Marvel character. So again, it's going to be very fascinating how that plans out.
That's right.
Obviously, again, forgive everyone for some spoilers, but looking in the trailer, there was looked like there was the Abomination in there.
That's
and
right.
Like, wow, this is brilliant.
So it's like they've gone back 10 years to bring.
Yeah, they're going to bring in some slightly obscure but well-known characters, and how's that all going to pan out, and how's that then going to link? Obviously, we're all keen to find out how the new, Marvel universe is going to expand. So it's going to be good, and great cast as well.
Definitely great cast. Definitely, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, no, definitely. All right, Luke. I think we've gone over the 1 hour mark.
We have indeed, but this is it. We can be on this chat for hours and hours.
No, of course, it's definitely, and that was the main thing. I mean, for the listeners to know the work you're doing and kind of motivate and inspire in different industries as well. Yeah. That hard work, it pays off, guys. Just got to be at it, and you'll be able to work with companies. And I'd never ever thought I'd work for some of the companies and meet the people that I've met in the past 10 years of my lifetime, being focused on what I was doing. And I think it's really adamant to do that. And going into coaching and teaching now. So I'm teaching some ages of 17, they're not kids, 17 to 25, young adults about digital art in Birmingham, Aston University on a 2-week course. So
fantastic.
Like yesterday was induction day, and it was just seeing these eager young adults ready to get into the industry, and there was so much talent in the room. It was music, it was dance, it was fine arts, it was just, as you said, when you vibe with creatives,
great people,
there's like a superpower in that, because
there is.
They were showing me their portfolio, and I was like, oh my God, like, when people compare my work to other people's work and say, oh, your work is amazing. Yesterday was the total opposite, where I was like, oh my God, your work, you're 17 years old.
Yeah.
You've only been doing this for 2 years. That is beautiful. Like, it really made me proud to see the type of work that people come out with. And it was like giving them that inspiration to kind of push further on it and say that you just have to put yourself out there. And I think that's always been the hardest part. Doesn't matter, depending on the type of person you are, is getting yourself out there, networking. And you have to do some things that are outside your comfort zone. And it was the first day, and I was already really proud of what they did. And that's amazing. And it really,
you're right. I mean, the industry we're in, I'm afraid it is networking. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that, as you say, you get out your comfort zone, you talk to people, find out who they are and what they're about, and you swap numbers, and you never know when you're going to call them and chat to them again. And that's really important, because it is very much about that sort of part of the world.
That's right.
And I think, just going back to slightly what you were saying, I know it's cliche, but it's the classic Star Wars quote about the apprentice now becoming the master. It's a little bit like that, isn't it?
Exactly that.
I'm going to sort of be a bit of an old man, but it's also about legacy, and it's what we're at a certain age now. It's like, well, hold on a moment, maybe I should be passing on my knowledge to the next generation and building them up. And if they become better than me, well, great.
Exactly.
Again, cliche, but it's about standing on the shoulders of the next person, isn't it? So.
No, definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Luke, thank you so much for joining me.
No, my pleasure.
That was like, it didn't even feel like an hour, that. So that you're going to come on to our next show. So I think what I would love to do is, when the what ifs are finished, we could do a bit of a breakdown together.
Oh, love that.
Yeah,
Love
so
that.
we
Really
do
enjoy
that.
it.
We do that. So, guys,
Yeah.
Luke, or where will we find all your stuff? We'll put them in the description.
Oh,
I
it's
know we
very
have
kind of you. Very kind of you.
so much
So,
social media that.
yeah, it is. It is. So you'll find me on Twitter under English Media. I think you'll find me. You'll find me on Instagram under Luke the Lawyer, and you'll find me on Facebook again. I think under English Media, and then I have a website which is www.english-media.com. Nice and easy.
That's it. So all the links again, guys. Please go follow, ask questions, and everything's all here for you. No, definitely. And Luke, massive thank you again.
Great,
Much appreciated.
Great to catch up.
Definitely.
Look after yourself, my friend.
You too. We'll catch up.